David Tazibel, who co-founded Autonomy with Mike Lynch, joins me now from central London. Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for talking to us today. I can imagine it's extremely difficult for you, given how well you know Mike Lynch, so we really appreciate it. And I can also understand, your desire to pay tribute to someone that you knew so well. So, first of all, what was he like?
Mike was a remarkable individual. I'd say he was the smartest, brightest man I've met in my life. He was a really unusual combination of, he had an inner child, so he loved video games, and he had a big train set, a life-size train set in his garden. And when we first set up Autonomy together 30-something years ago, there were no search engines. And we both love dogs, and his other business partner, Richard Gordon, and I, we created a cartoon dog that ran around, I think it was called Gromit, and every time it found something, it sniffed, and I remember making the barking noises with him, and millions of people got that. He was a lovely man. He was, and I think he had a remarkable set of personality traits, which we rarely see in Britain. He was an intellectual, he was an academic, he was a scientist. He learnt, I think possibly because he came from a lower middle class background. He was originally born in Ireland, maybe even working class. He had a hunger and an ambition, but because he was so interested in mathematics and computer science and what he called neurodynamics, he was very, very, very focused on the truth, which is why it was so difficult and so strange seeing what happened to him in the last 12 years. A wonderful man, a wonderful friend.
I love the details that you give there. You really brought him to life with the train set in the garden and the kind of yapping dog noises. You get a real sense of the guy. You mentioned there the last 12 years, and you are, of course, talking about the court case. I just want to get a bit of a sense about how he decided to fight, despite the odds been stacked against him, and then win. I mean, that says a lot about his character as well.
This was the most relentless, resilient man I have ever known, and if he believed something to be morally worth fighting for, he would grab onto it and he wouldn't let go. And look, I was very proud of the company we built together. I wasn't involved after the late 90s. I went off and did some other things, but we remained great friends. And I never heard him lie. I never heard him exaggerate. He was interested in truth. He was interested in finding out the facts, in getting rid of the noise in data, and he was helping the police with combined databases to catch villains. And for him to be accused of manipulating his profits and then being sued and then prosecuted for billions, it was an extraordinary thing. It just wasn't Mike. The company was making hundreds of millions of profit. It wasn't a Ponzi scheme or anything. And he saw his baby being deconstructed and then him being blamed for it. But he hunkered down. And all of us, that knew him, knew he was innocent. And for me, it reminds me of the post office scandal, but this time against one man. This was one man with a brain the size of a planet and hundreds of millions of pounds in the bank and the feeling of justice and rightness behind him, and my goodness, he delivered.
I tell you what, it does make you feel the tragedy even more acutely. He must have felt like, the second chapter of his life, if you like, was beginning.
He described it as like Schrodinger's cat. In one, you open one box, the cat is dead. The other, the cat is alive. And, we were messaging the day he was acquitted, and he was just few. But he was, when I originally started offering him help in the mid-teens of this decade, or last decade, he said, "I don't need help. I'm innocent. It's fine. We'll get through this." And he was a man on a mission. He had so many ideas, and he was very special because he was the kind of man that could not only have an idea, he could drill down, he would argue it to pieces, and then he would implement it. And there are, there's him, there's Steve Jobs, there's Bill Gates, maybe Elon Musk. There's very few people on the planet could do that. And he was raring to go. He was like a pressure cooker. And I was so looking forward to some exciting times with him.
I guess that's the other thing, isn't it? You know, it would have been so interesting to see what he would have done next. I mean, he's the kind of guy I'd imagine the British economy could have needed right now as well.
Both as a leader, an entrepreneur. Before he got involved, there was no British tech scene, and you know, I was lucky enough to be one of the founders of that scene. And you know, when we started out in the early 90s, a British entrepreneur that was had an idea, particularly in technology, that was going to make £10 million. Well, that was the most you'd ever have the arrogance to ask for, and he changed it. He showed that we could be world class in terms of business, in terms of problem solving, in terms of innovation. He is the greatest businessman of Britain that Britain's had over the last 50 years by miles, and also a wonderful human being. I'm so sorry for his family and for his children. It's such a loss, and we should be celebrating this legacy. And to lose the last 12 years of this wonderful man's life for a pointless legal argument which comes down to nothing more than greed, it's crazy.
You speak, you know, very movingly about Mike's life, about his achievements. I just wonder if we could take a moment to think about his family, as you just mentioned there as well. His poor wife, I can't imagine what she's going through right now. And of course, Hannah, his 18-year-old daughter, still missing.
Terrible. It's the human tragedy here is beyond belief, and it's a waste. And I you know, all I want to do is say I hope there's a miracle. There may be, and let's keep our fingers crossed. But you know, I love that man, and he should be celebrated as a hero. And I hope something good comes out of this. But I hope his family are okay. We're all there to support him, and I hope the family. But I just hope there's some good news. They deserve good news, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Something we'll all be hoping and praying for. Thank you so much for coming on the programme. I know, you know, you'll be grieving. It really is appreciated that you're giving us your time in the most difficult of circumstances. So thank you.
Thank you.